to a special edition of Sports Talk. My name is Charlie King, and I'll be hosting today's show. And we have a special guest, Mr. Reggie Carney, who really needs no introduction. He has been a legend in Central Jersey basketball for 25 years, 13 years of which have been in East Brunswick High School. And his accomplishments are as long as the road forever, I guess. So welcome, Reggie.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Okay.
Privilege.
Well, it's our privilege to have you, believe me. Why don't you give our audience just a little bit of Reggie Carney's background, like where did you come from and how did you wind up involved in athletics?
Well, growing up, you know, a South Amboy cerebral borderline kid, athletics was our whole life.
Okay.
So, you know, I grew up in that environment, playing in 3 different little leagues, you know, until I got booted out of 2, and then, you know, the Babe Ruth leagues, the basketball. So, where I grew up and having such a love for athletics at such a young age, you couldn't have been blessed to be placed geographically in any better area. My family we were 4 years apart in age groups, so all of my older cousins ended up playing ball in college. So we just had a group of cousins. We all lived on the same street, and everybody were die-hard ball players. Our fathers were ball players, our uncles were ball players. So I'm going to say from the minute we started, you know, the minute we came out and were born, that was it. We were playing ball.
So after high school, then you went to Arizona, is that right?
I was real lucky, yes. I probably had the most phenomenal coach a high school player could have, and he was my baseball coach, a man by the name of John Wortley.
Oh, I know John.
So
well.
he was, I mean, I just cannot boast enough about what this man did for me, what he did for everybody. But, you know, and we hear this a lot around here about size and speed and this and that. And I mean, I'm a scrawny 5'7", 135-pound senior, and yet this man pushed me, you know, in such a positive way that I was lucky enough to make All-State. I was lucky enough to get drafted by the Kansas City Royals, and then I was lucky enough to end up in Arizona playing baseball. So,
right.
You know.
And then you hurt the arm, is that?
Oh, yes, I hurt the arm, and 5 hours on an operating table. That was the end of that pursuit and that career. And from there, I went out with another uncle out to California, where I did the corporate insurance sales routine for about a half a year, and just knew I cannot be in an office. So I came back to New Jersey. I ended up in Sayreville substituting. That went on the whole year, and then the following year they had an opening for a permanent sub in South Amboy. So I ended up in South Amboy, and then from there they needed a JV basketball coach. So it was strongly suggested if I would like to continue being around, it might not be a bad idea to sign up for the girls' JV basketball job. So,
yeah, because I was wondering why girls as opposed to coaching boys.
And that was it. It was a girls' basketball opening. Nobody would take the job. So me, as like I said, the permanent sub, I took the job, and I would say it took me 2 weeks. I was absolutely in love with it, because not like our modern day, like when I had your daughter or the other girls, I can never say that I played pickup basketball or baseball with a girl around. You know, in our day in the 60s, it was all guys.
Right.
So I had never been involved in any side of a girls' athletic event. I had never witnessed one. I had never been around one. I mean, I knew girls that played basketball or softball, but after 2 weeks with, you know, what God blessed me as my first girls team, I was hooked.
So then you become JV coach.
JV coach for 1 year.
1 year, and then
varsity coach the following year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, when you look at that record at Hoffman, I mean, that really is truly incredible. Just talk a little bit about that. I mean, I know 2 undefeated seasons, 167 straight. And there are a lot of numbers, but there's a lot behind those numbers. And maybe you could share with us some of your feelings about those.
Yeah, I just think that, you know, myself and the players involved and the townspeople and, you know, the administrators, the fellow teachers and fellow students, it was just one of those surreal experiences that, you know, it'll never happen again. You know, open up your eyes, enjoy it, keep working hard, because you got a big target on your back right now. But I was blessed with a bunch of girls, you know, my original JV team and my varsity teams there, and we were always good. We were always won our 23, 24 games. We get knocked out in the first or second round of the county. We get knocked out in the second round of the state. And what I got blessed with were the younger sisters, the next door neighbors, the nieces of all of my original players. And my whole, I guess my whole strong point in basketball has been fundamentals. And my original teams, we were so fundamentally sound, it was beyond belief. We just didn't have the speed, or we didn't have this, we didn't have that, we didn't have the experience. So when I got handed a group of girls that in reality, I got handed a Catholic school team, because my players came from St. Mary's, South Amboy, Sacred Heart from South Amboy. The famous twins were from St. Stephen's of Perth Amboy, but they lived in South Amboy because they were too young to attend grammar school right down the street in Sacred Heart. So they wanted to enter, a year earlier. So I ended up getting, what would be our modern day version of a public school team, that AAU game. So they had played at least 80 Catholic school games a year. So when they walked into Huffman High School, in reality, I had a Catholic school team that had played 200 games, in the past 2 or 3 years, a Group 1 schedule, and my dad had made an interesting comment, because he when he first came to a game, because everybody talks about coaching. His comment after witnessing one game was, "I'll tell you what, your girl's got a lot of talent, but you don't have a clue what you're doing." And then from that point, I lived at camps. If it wasn't Rick Pitino, it was Johnny Wooden. It was everywhere I used to go. 7 weeks of summer, anywhere from the state of Washington out to Rhode Island, down to Virginia, up to the Poconos. I had my little van, and I would go, pay me my $250. I'd get a dorm room, my meals for free, and I'd work camps and just steal everything that I could, because, in many ways my father was right. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was headstrong. I knew everything, but I knew nothing. So, it was my duty then, you better learn what you need to learn to take these girls to a level they can get to, and, the rest is kind of history.
Well, you took them to the first Tournament of Champions, if you will.
And that was such a fitting climax to the whole Cinderella story down there, because those poor kids had so much pressure on them, a lot like the East Brunswick kids do. You're following the footsteps of the famous soccer teams or the basketball teams, and those poor kids were the first ever group to lose 2 games in a row. That had never, ever happened. They were the first group to lose a New Jersey interscholastic game. That was 107 games in a row. They broke the 67-game win streak against everybody. We had never lost a home game in 7.5 years. They lost the home game. So we lost the county championship that year by like 16 points.
I remember that.
So we ended up getting the 6th seed out of 6 teams in the Tournament of Champions. We probably should have been seeded 12th. But when we got to the Tournament of Champions, even in the first round, and that was interesting, because St. Peter's of New Brunswick beat us by 16, and they lost by 16 to the team we played in the first round of the TMC, and we beat them by 20. The next round we played a team 32-0, and we had already lost to them by 30 in a scrimmage, and we beat them by 1. So it's very interesting that those girls could not have played any more brilliant when there was nothing. Nobody gave us any hope at all. There was just no hope. We couldn't do it.
We're talking about the Kaczynski twins,
and the Renee Biablakis and the Lorraine McNerney's and the Chrissy Nobles, and which has been such a great source of pride in my career, that everybody knows my stars, but anybody that comes to watch us play knows that the girls that don't get the recognition are kind of the backbone. And they do so many things that go unnoticed. And, we always know about the Kaczynski twins, but I'll tell you what, there were people that their job was to get a rebound. You don't even have to dribble, get it to somebody, and they did their job to perfection. That's the only way it can work, when you're going to get to that level.
So after all that success at Hoffman, the smallest public school, I think, is that right? In the state of New Jersey.
We had 212 students in the student body. And that
9 to 12.
9 to 12, and we had 112 girls to select from, 9 to 12. So that's all we had.
And had the best team in the state.
Well,
that speaks for itself. Everybody knows a lot of hard work, and we'll talk about a little later on. I want to ask you about what it takes to be a player. But let us go back. So you finished your career at Hoffman. Unbelievable success, as we've talked about. You go to Boston University for 1 year as an assistant. And needless to say, you didn't like it very much. And
everybody's idea of how to run a college program is different. And I think the unfortunate side with me is my idea of running any program has nothing to do with winning. Winning is icing on the cake. Winning is, what comes from everything that we try to do. And I basically found that, that's not the age group that I belong with. Mm-hmm. I belong with younger players. I belong with players that want to learn how to dribble. They want to learn how to do things. And again, there's still that excitement about them. I think the college kids were more, things fluctuated on whether we won or whether we lost. And, to me, that's just so unimportant. So I was lucky. I think the natural step is you were lucky enough to win so many state titles. You're lucky enough to win the first TFC. So the next step is to win an NCAA title. And it only took me, and thank God, it only took me a year to find out. It's just not that important to me.
And
I really don't care.
And in the summer of 1990,
yeah.
I know you received a phone call from some guy who said, "What are you doing? How would you like to come and be the coach at East Brunswick, girls coach at East Brunswick High School?"
Matter of fact, I was lucky there too, because those famous Kazemski twins again. I went over to Managers Little League Field. Mm-hmm. I went over to Managers Little League Field, and I went to see their younger brother Mike playing an all-star tournament. And while over there, I was basically told that East Brunswick is looking for a girls basketball coach. So I made an immediate phone call to some gentleman by the name of Mr. Charles King, and
the rest
I got
is
lucky.
history.
I got lucky.
You got lucky. No,
yep.
I'm going to correct you on that. I got to stop you. The lucky ones are all of those outstanding kids that we had here that you've coached in East Brunswick. Not only the girls basketball team. See, I see Reggie Carney as much more than a girls basketball coach. First of all, you're an outstanding teacher.
Thanks.
Patience. I mean that sincerely. I don't say that lightly at all. I mean, you have an unbelievable ability to relate to kids because you have demonstrated, and you continue to demonstrate to them, at least in my observations, that you care about them, right, and you care about their success. Whether or not it's a student in gym class who cannot dribble a basketball, the same patience, the same time and effort goes into her improving as the best athlete in the school. Right. And I think that comes across to the students. That's my observation. That's
I get lucky too, because it's not really in your career opportunities to quit a job at age 40. Yeah. Now you have nothing. You have no job. You're in August looking for a job. So, like I said, and it certainly was a blessing, to be able to talk to you and get hired at such an outstanding situation.
So now you come into East Brunswick, a program that was competitive, not certainly the top echelon all the time. Occasionally we did win a county championship one year back in whenever that was, I forget.
Kicked our butt that year.
Yeah, well, I remember that.
Yep.
That was nice to do. I have to admit that. But now you come into East Brunswick and immediately have that kind of an impact on the girls basketball program in East Brunswick. How does that happen?
Well, I think. I think a lot of that also goes back to my beginnings that you're told in the world of athletics, you never get close to your players. I never really agreed with that. So I went down my own street as far as how I dealt with my players at South Amboy, and certainly carried that at East Brunswick. Because of what I was able to be a part of. Okay, a lot of South Amboy is going to be, well, the coach did this, the coach did that, and that's such a lie. Okay, that's so exaggerated it's beyond belief, okay? Because they have to do the running, they have to do this, they have to do that. So I think I have a certain level of expectations. You could classify it as raising the bar a little bit. Okay. This is how I think people should be able to work. I was told early on, you can't work girls as hard as boys. Well, I'm not going to sell my girls short. They're athletes. They made a choice, and that choice was to be a female athlete. And to me, when they come in that gym, you do treat people differently, but again, to me, it's one and the same thing. The only difference is my athletes can't touch the rim. My athletes can't run the 100 and 9.9, but I basically, with my East Brunswick girls, convinced them that everything that they are capable of doing, I'm going to try and get out of them. And then I think the tough part comes is that, A, they have to know that you care. but B, they also have to know that you're not going to let down to make anything easy for them. Every day they're going to get challenged. And I say to them every day, if you can go home and look in the mirror, you tried as hard as you could. You had a good day in practice, you had a bad day. That's fine. We won the game, we lost the game, that's fine, because and I would say to all of them, I'm going to be honest with you. When I go home every night, I'm going to look in that mirror and I'm going to smile because I know I gave you every ounce of blood I had today. And sometimes I do it correctly. I'm calm, I'm nice, I explain things clearly. Sometimes, again, the world's not perfect. Some days open my mouth when I shouldn't have, some days push them too hard when I shouldn't have. But again, I think the kids in a short enough time understood that I certainly cared about them, not about winning. I'm about this is what they need to do to get confidence in their game. This is where confidence can take them. This is where fundamentals can bring us to. And then the enthusiasm and the fun part, this is how we could be the premier public school program in New Jersey.
Why that style of play, the Carney style of play is, in my own words, is
I think
30 minutes of chaos.
I think that goes back to my IQ level, that I'm not the brightest person in the world. But when it comes to basketball, I'm smart enough to understand this. I will not do anything that you practice. So I know in your practices, you probably subscribe to the theory that you cannot teach girls to play woman-to-woman defense because it's hard. It's hard work.
For zone.
Zone's easy.
Yeah. Okay.
Zone's easy. You do not have to have your blood pressure raised teaching people zones. It's easy. So what I've always tried to do with our style of play, helter-skelter, 32 minutes of chaos, is I know you couldn't make the commitment and convince your kids to make the commitment to work that hard for 2 hours a day to play that style of basketball. It is hard. Practice is so demanding and so much harder than games, it's unbelievable, because a game is 32 minutes. Practice is 2 hours usually. So with that, and I think the girls found out that once you get used to it and you eliminate throwing balls all over the gym and having moments of embarrassment, that fans absolutely love it, because there's a preconceived notion that girls can't play this style of game, or you have to have outstanding athletes. You have to have outstanding speed. You have to have outstanding athletic ability. And I think we proved to anybody that came to our games. I'm not saying we're the greatest at that style, but for our ability, we play that style very, very well, and the kids love it.
I know there were certainly a lot of games won in the fourth quarter, even this year, when teams just absolutely were out of gas on the other side of the gym, and your kids just took over.
Yeah, that's a lot of common sense too. That you've been blessed a lot of years with so many East Brunswick soccer players. Well, if they've been playing soccer since kindergarten, I guarantee you they got great endurance. They have great endurance and they're used to running. So we're going to run and run and run and run. And the style has worked out so well for us.
It really has.
Yeah.
How do you measure success in a program? Is it Division I scholarship? And you've had a number of Division I scholarships. Any idea of how many girls have gone on to full scholarships?
Yeah, I'll laugh at that one because, and it's funny because I know I've said this to you, that I've never gotten any girl Division I scholarship. That's never happened. So, like, I'm laughing with Mr. King here because I said to him, there's no, I would admit I'm very well respected in the college ranks. But there is not a college coach alive that likes me that much and respects me that much to hand my kid $28,000. So,
now, what I'm saying though is you really had the impact of getting them to that point. I mean, I know
well, I think the interesting thing there is, like with your own daughter, many other kids. I mean, I questioned the kids early on, their freshman year. What do you want to be? Where do you want to go? Let's just be specific with this part of your life, basketball. Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to end up? Well, I want to play college, coach. Okay, well, you're going to have a little different set of rules than the other kids are. So I think just with the kids understanding that I know what I'm doing. I know how to get average athletes, a little above average athletes, good basketball players that can't touch the rim. I know what it takes, and I know how to get you where you need to be to get these scholarships. So we were blessed because in South Amboy and East Brunswick, we've had 21 full rides.
Full rides.
And that's not including Division IIIs, et cetera. I think, and that's probably, certainly something I'm very proud of. We probably have, with AAUs and some kids from other schools and our kids that play Division III, probably about 45 45 girls.
What does a girl have to do? Let's say we have somebody out there in the audience, a young lady that's saying, I want to be a basketball player.
I get dragged into this conversation so many times, and it's so easy. It really, really is. Because, a lot of kids, they spread themselves too thin, but that's not even a problem when they're younger. They're playing. But I think, in a 1 minute dissertation, reality number one is if I do not have the money, I go to the playgrounds. And I play basketball against men, against teenage boys, against girls that are willing to be there, and I just play. And I play and I play. Now, the other route and the more organized route, because in that situation you're not going to get seen a lot, the modern day world of AAU basketball is just fabulous. For $250, you can play 4 games a weekend anywhere on the East Coast. So I think what happens is you get that accumulation. When I had Colleen and Katie and Courtney and Karen and Jan and all those girls, and everybody's like, wow, they're so good all the time. Well, the reality was that when the season ended in March, okay, AAU started in March or April, okay, without me being able to coach, but again, all right, with Mr. King and a lot of other very generous people that gave their time. So by the time the girls got done in March and April, May and June, school ends. Now I pick up the team. So by the time the summer ends, we have literally played 85 games, or the equivalent of 2 seasons. Right. Now, the people we get to play against are better than anybody we're going to face pretty much in our county, in maybe our whole schedule, and they're all playing at Virginia, UCLA, Duke, everywhere, and this is who we're playing every other weekend.
We played up in Connecticut one summer, and who do we play against? Holsla.
Yep, Shamik Holsla.
From Christ the King at that time.
And then, if you may remember, we got to scrimmage her. She came to East Brunswick High School for a scrimmage. So,
and what an education that is about. You want to be a player?
Yep.
Well, this is what you need to do to get to that level. Do you still call your players?
All the time. All the time.
When you started doing that, when the first year here, and you were calling my home, obviously, and I'm saying, he can't be doing this to everybody. And then I asked a couple of other parents, the Blores or the Whalens or whoever that was, is Reggie calling? Why do you do that? And you still do that?
Well, I think there's such a fine line, during practice or during games, and there's a lot of pressure involved there. So I think a lot of times, A, something went on in practice, and I don't quite think the girl's getting what I need her to get, okay, and we run out of time or whatever. B, it's just your daughter had a bad day. She had a bad day. She needs to get her chin lifted up. She had a great day. She needs to hear a pat on the back. There was a look on her face, and I know something's not right, and I know it doesn't have anything to do with basketball. So to me, a lot of times is that if you let that go overnight and you wait till the next day, it's amazing what you don't learn about your players. Okay, and it's nice that, the players call me or I call them. So, and they've been such a big part of my life, so it's amazing how many times they've made my night or I've made their night, or we've cleared up. Let's say, again, I was on their back in practice and we've been able to clear something up rather than, again, the phone call might be 2 hours after practice as versus the next morning when we've now drugged mom into it, dad into it, some other people into it. So now things just build, to the positive or to the negative. But I think, we have such a close relationship because we work so hard, and we don't really pull any punches with each other. So I think that leads to a lot of it, and it's just. Well, I don't know how that started, but it just it's always been that way.
Let me tell you, it works because the level of respect that I've seen throughout the program, from the first year you were here down until yesterday or today, is really incredible. Thanks. And I know it's that phone call, and I know it's that caring.
And I think that's a key word. You care about them so much that you know how hard you work them or how much you push them, but you don't want that to to outdo the relationship or, again, the appreciation of how hard you're trying for me.
Now, a lot of those girls come back and have worked with you.
Yeah.
I know your assistant right now is Katie Whalen.
Yes.
You had Courtney Bloor as an assistant. She was in the 9th grade. Kara Monaseski, Mary Ann Lewis. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right.
Is that a result of those phone calls and all the other caring and What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I could pinpoint that. I guess you'd like to hope that it's that whole ball of wax, that, you know, the caring, the relationships, the ups and the downs with each other, the trusting each other when times are bad. You know, I just think the experience of what you go through, and I think on the other hand, you'd like to hope that it was such an enjoyable experience. I know, like Katie and other girls that went on to college, they found out their college experience wasn't like their high school experience. And I'm sure many times they thought they had it so bad with me, you know, being so demanding and this and that. And I think, you know, you couldn't have better role models to come back now and be your assistants and take programs over, because these girls have been in the trenches for so many years. But they found out what a wonderful, wonderful opportunity girls basketball is. And I think the experience is just so great. I mean, reading an article about Vienna the other day, how Vienna, with all of its trees and all its branches, how they all come back and this and that. And I think the same thing. You try to make it a family atmosphere, and, you know, no family's 100% happy 100% of the time. So I think the girls just had such a good experience. I think they achieved levels maybe they thought they weren't capable of.
Yeah.
You know, and they found that they can do anything. They can do anything they put their minds to. So for them to come back, and I mean, I'm always bothered, you got to hire her, you got to hire, you got to hire. She's what we need, because they are ex-players.
Well, they certainly have contributed a great deal to the program.
Unbelievable.
We're coming to the end of this very rapid half-hour show, which seems like we just got started, and I have about 50 more questions I want to ask you. But we need to wrap it up, and I just want to remind our audience that there will be a dinner in your honor. April, I know you don't want one, he didn't want one. April the 1st at the Chateau. If anyone is interested, and hopefully we can pack the place, because you deserve it, you can call Mr. Knoppenberger at the athletic office and make those arrangements. And Reggie, on behalf of every player that ever played for you, certainly in East Brunswick, let me be their representative and say thank you, thank you, thank you for a truly outstanding job here at East Brunswick.
Well, I
you are going to be missed.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And on behalf of Reggie Carney and myself, thank you very much for watching Sports Talk.